This is Rob Pike, back with part 5 of the series, God, Science, or Both? Who can we trust? In the last episode of this series, we looked at the fact that we have conclusive proof that Jesus was the Son of God and walked upon the earth. Now, having said that, I know that there are some watching who will try to deny that there is such conclusive proof, but the facts actually speak for themselves. In other words, as we discussed in great detail in the last session, if we were to present this evidence in a court of law, we could actually produce enough evidence that it would show overwhelmingly that Jesus did exist, that he died and was buried, and on the third day, just exactly as he had prophesied earlier, he walked out of that grave. Can you imagine being a witness to such an absolutely amazing event? This is something which has never been duplicated. So what we will begin to do in this session is to show proof using the same courtroom types of methods that we used previously to look at whether the Bible, which records all of this, is a resource we can trust or not. I can't think of anything more important in our lives to give us unfailing assurance that we can absolutely put our trust in the living God who is credited as being the author of the Bible. Can you? So then my question for you today is this. Is the Bible truly the inspired Word of God or not? Let's talk about that. Before we begin looking at whether or not the Bible is the inspired Word of God and a resource we can trust, let's look at a summary of what we learned concerning proof from secular sources that Jesus walked this earth and was the Son of God. Once again, we will be considering information as found in the book I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Norman Geisler and Frank Turek. As we quoted in the last session, Jewish historian Josephus mentioned Jesus in the Antiquities of the Jews on 2 occasions, pointing out that he was a doer of wonderful works and was called the Christ. But there are many other sources of which we could actually be labeled as anti-Christian that mention Jesus. I've mentioned these in the slide which I'm displaying at this point right now. When we extract all of the information from these non-Christian and many times anti-Christian writings, here are the facts that would be presented. I'm going to present 12 facts. 1. Jesus lived during the time of Tiberius Caesar. 2. He lived a virtuous life. 3. He was a wonder worker. 4. He had a brother named James. 5. He was acclaimed to be the Messiah. 6. He was crucified under Pontius Pilate. 7. He was crucified on the eve of the Jewish Passover. 8. Darkness and an earthquake occurred when he died. 9. His disciples believed he rose from the dead. 10. His disciples were willing to die for their belief. 11. Christianity spread rapidly as far as Rome. And 12. His disciples denied the Roman gods and worshiped Jesus as God. Now, I'd like to ask you an important question. Through these writings, what we are in effect doing is calling these highly credible witnesses to the witness stand in a court of law. If this was a live trial, do you think a jury would have any doubt in believing that Jesus existed as stated by the 4 gospel accounts of the Bible? Well, of course not. In the light of these non-Christian references that we quoted in the last session, those who have surmised that Jesus never existed are clearly accepting an unreasonable concept. How is it possible that these non-Christian and in some cases anti-Christian writers collectively reveal a storyline that is in line with what is given in the New Testament if Jesus never existed? But there's even a deeper aspect than that to this. Even though these non-Christian authors will not attest to the testimony of the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, they do indeed report that the disciples without question believed it and were even willing to die for it. So now this brings us to the question as to whether we can believe the New Testament documents as being reliable historical documents or not. In order to believe that they are indeed reliable historical documents, must get answers to the following 2 questions. First of all, are we certain that we have accurate copies of the original documents that were written down in the 1st century? And second of all, do these documents contain truth or fiction? In this case, we know that getting evidence that these first century documents actually exist is not enough. We must confirm the accuracy of the accounts recorded. First of all, there's an important fact that is many times overlooked when doing this type of research. Some refer to this set of works labeled as a New Testament as a single document, but this is an absolutely false assumption. It is, in fact, 27 documents that have been brought together because they speak a common theme. These documents were actually written on 27 different scrolls by 9 different writers over a period of time of 20 to 50 years. When these documents were compiled into one book, they make up what is commonly called the New Testament, and it is in fact a collection of original works. But some will object and state that we do not have any original copies of these documents, and that's a true statement. But will that actually prevent us from knowing what the original document stated? The answer to that question is no. It is a fact that all significant literature from the ancient realm of history is reconstructed into its original form by documents that have survived through the ages. But in order to reconstruct these documents, it's necessary to have a large number of manuscripts that were constructed not long after the original. The more high quality manuscripts that exist, the more accurate the reconstruction will be. And the fact is, in this regard, that the manuscripts of the New Testament have more manuscripts and earlier manuscripts, as well as more abundantly supported manuscripts than the best 10 pieces of classical literature combined. Geisler and Turek report in their book, I Do Not Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, that there are nearly 5,700 handwritten Greek manuscripts of the New Testament. In addition, there are more than 9,000 manuscripts in other languages, such as Syriac, Coptic, Latin, and Arabic. This totals nearly 15,000 manuscripts. Some of these nearly 15,000 manuscripts are complete Bibles, and others are books or pages, and a few just fragments. As you can see from the slide I'm presenting here for the second time, there is nothing from the ancient world that even comes close in terms of manuscript support. The next closest work is the Iliad by Homer with 643 manuscripts. Most other ancient works survive on fewer than a dozen manuscripts, yet we know that very few historians question the historicity of those events that those works describe. In addition to the overwhelming number of manuscripts, there are also several manuscripts that are shown to be written very soon after the originals. This includes a segment from the book of John that is dated from 117 to 138 AD and is held by John Ryland's Library in Manchester, England. And this does not include the 9 disputed fragments found in the Dead Sea Scrolls dated from 50 to 70 AD. Some scholars believe that these fragments are part of 6 New Testament books, including Mark, Acts, Romans, 1 Timothy, 2 Peter, and James. And even though there are other scholars who resist this conclusion, perhaps because its admission would undermine their liberal leanings that the New Testament was written later, they have not found any other New Testament text that match these fragments. In February of the year 303 AD, the Roman Emperor Diocletian brought a severe edict of persecution upon Christians in order to suppress information that would expose Romans' gods as being false gods. During this time period of about 8 years, hundreds and perhaps even thousands of manuscripts were destroyed. And even though Diocletian succeeded in the destruction of so many manuscripts, we know that he did not destroy them all. In fact, had he even succeeded in destroying them all, we would still have had the ability to reconstruct the New Testament from the writings of the early church fathers such as Justin Martyr, Irenaeus, Clement of Alexandria, Origen, Tertullian, and others who extensively quoted the New Testament over 36,000 times. These writings are so complete that we have the complete New Testament on record by them, with the exception of 11 verses of the entire content of all of its passages. Now that brings us to the question of the accuracy of the New Testament. Many have tried to claim that the Bible is full of errors. This is a gross misunderstanding that we must address. Those who have made such claims have deliberately exaggerated those errors, most of which are grammatical, meaning punctuation or spelling. This is how they make such a claim. For example, a variant spelling of one letter of one word in one verse in 2,000 manuscripts is counted as 2,000 errors. Textual scholars Westcott and Hort estimated that only 1 in 60 of these variants has significance. This would leave it 98.33% pure text. Swiss-born Protestant theologian Philip Schaff calculated that of the 150,000 variants known in this day, only 400 changed the meaning of the passage, only 50 were of real significance, and not even one affected an article of faith or a precept of duty which is not abundantly sustained by other and undoubted passages, or by the whole tenor of the scriptural teaching. The facts show that there is no other book of ancient history that is so well authenticated. The great New Testament scholar and Princeton professor Bruce Metzger estimated that the Mahabharata of Hinduism is copied with only about 90% accuracy, as Homer's Iliads with about 95%. By comparison, he estimated the New Testament is about 99.5% accurate, and the remaining 0.05 or 0.5% in question that we find of these do not affect a single doctrine of the Christian faith. So this brings us to a very important question. Is the New Testament historically reliable? In other words, is the storyline of this really true? Can we really trust that the major events described in the New Testament really occurred? Specifically, can we trust that the New Testament, which states that Jesus really did walk the earth nearly 2,000 years ago, and that he did teach profound truths, perform miracles, and was really crucified for claiming to be the Son of God? Can we believe all of this? And if after all of that, and most significantly, can we trust from what is written in these accounts that he really did rise up from the dead and was seen by over 500 people? Answer to these questions actually should be of paramount importance to all of us. So in order to be able to trust these statements are true, we need to find out the nature of the records which comprise the New Testament. Were they truly documents written soon after the events by the eyewitnesses, or those who were interviewed by the eyewitnesses, or are they documents which were written later and wrote for them for the purpose of creating a storyline which is actually a false narrative? When we come back in the next session, we will look at this in more detail. Won't you join us for this? In the meantime, I would like to point out this excellent resource one more time. It has been the book that I've been quoting, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, by Norman Geisler and Frank Turek. So until the next time, I would like to say thank you so much for watching, and God bless.